Thank you for dropping by. I normally don't do videos about this kind of thing, but I thought this was important. This is about the rewriting of Roald Dahl that's been in the papers recently by Puffin Books. This is important because I do a bit of writing myself, and also I'm a reader, and I think it's important for readers to be able to reach out and read writers from the past. I won't keep you long, but if you have time, stick around to the end and the irony of ironies. So these are pulled from articles from the UK in February 2023, so hopefully things might change. You might see this in a few years and things might have changed for the better. Let's hope so. So the rewriting of Roald Dahl. Across his beloved children's books, hundreds of the author's words have been changed or entirely removed in a bid for relevancy. Words matter begins the discreet notice which sits at the bottom of the copyright page of Puffin's latest edition of Roald Dahl's books. The wonderful world of Roald Dahl can transport you to different worlds and introduce you to the most marvellous characters. This book was written many years ago, and so we regularly review the language to ensure that it can continue to be enjoyed by all today. Put simply, these may not be the words Dahl wrote. The publishers have given themselves license to edit the writer as they see fit, chopping, altering and adding where necessary to bring his books in line with contemporary sensibilities. Language related to weight, mental health, violence, gender and race has been cut and rewritten. Remember the cloud men in James and the Giant Peach? They are now the cloud people. The small foxes in Fantastic Mr. Fox are now female. In Matilda, the mention of Rudyard Kipling has been cut and Jane Austen added. It's Roald Dahl, but different. The modern editor of Dahl faces a dilemma: how to retain Dahl's compelling spikiness, which has enthralled generations of readers, while bringing it in line with the hair-trigger sensitivities of children's publishing. Puffin's overhaul is the result. Okay, so now we'll look at a few quick examples. This is from The Witches. "Don't be foolish," my grandmother said. "You can't go round pulling the hair of every lady you meet, even if she is wearing gloves. Just you try it and see what happens." This has become, "Don't be foolish," my grandmother said. "Besides, there are plenty of other reasons why women might wear wigs, and there is certainly nothing wrong with that." The article goes on. Unsurprisingly, given The Witch's subject matter, many of the edits are to do with depictions of women. Chambermaid becomes cleaner. Great flock of ladies becomes great group of ladies. You must be mad, woman becomes you must be out of your mind. And the old hag becomes the old crow. More examples. Even as she is working as a cashier in a supermarket or typing letters for a businessman. That's from the 2001 edition. This becomes, even as she is working as a top scientist or running a business. That's from the recent 2022 edition. Other alterations are about weight. Fat little brown mouse becomes little brown mouse. Here's your little boy, she said. He needs to go on a diet. Becomes, here's your little boy. And there are numerous other examples. It can change the meaning, and it certainly changes the flavour of Dahl's writing. In Matilda, she had heard that parents like this existed all over the place, and that their children turned out to be delinquents and dropouts. That's the original version. But now it reads, she had heard that parents like this existed all over the place. Full stop. So there are more articles that have been written about this, and they refer to other omissions and additions. References to physical appearance have been heavily edited. The word fat has been removed from every book, apparently. Augustus Gloop in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory can now only be described as enormous, which to my mind could be even worse. The Oompa Loompas are no longer tiny, titchy, or no higher than my knee, but are merely small. And where they were once small men, they are now small people. And so it continues, but there does appear to be a bit of a backlash. One letter writer writes in saying, "As the sales director who accompanied Roald Dahl on rare signing sessions and sat behind a row of Oompa Loompas at the preview of the first film of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I am certain that he, Roald Dahl, would have been furious at Puffin's rewording of passages in his books. He was not always the easiest person when it came to handling an author, but I was amazed by the transformation when he talked to children in bookshops. He knew exactly how their minds worked and what sort of language appealed to them. Often the more anarchic and grotesque, the better. By rewriting his words to satisfy woke senses, that special rapport between Dahl and his audience is in danger of being destroyed forever. And that's the real concern. But other writers are pushing back. Salman Rushdie attacks the rewrites as absurd censorship. And even other European publishers have joined the backlash against changing Roald Dahl's books, saying his stories lose all their power if his language is watered down. And this was the author's Dutch publisher who criticised the decision by Puffin and the Roald Dahl Story Company to make these hundreds of changes after consulting sensitivity readers. He says he will stick with the original text. Similarly, the publisher of Roald Dahl's books in French has no plans for rewriting his books. So who are these publishers? Who or what is Puffin? Now, Puffin is well known in the UK, so I went to the website and had a look to see what they had to say or who was doing it. Here is the leadership team. So you have Tom Weldon as the CEO and a handful of others, but I was just wondering whose idea it was that they should do this. Publishers should be guardians of a writer's work. I wonder if all these individuals feel the same way, whether Val and Mark and Sinead and Stefan, whether they all feel the same way that these things should be changed. After all, when does it stop? And who stops it? Language changes decade to decade. My only hope is that readers don't settle for this and do their best to support Dahl's original text, original books. Finally, I went to the Puffin's authors page and guess what I found? George Orwell. Can you believe it? You cannot make it up. George Orwell, who was born in India, where his father worked in the civil service, an author and journalist, Orwell was one of the most prominent and influential figures in the 20th century literature. His unique political allegory, Animal Farm, was published in 1945, and it was this novel, together with this dystopia, yes, that's the word, dystopia, of 1984, which brought him to worldwide fame. Now let me give you a quote from George Orwell's book 1984. He wrote in that book about a dystopian Britain. Already we know almost literally nothing about the revolution and the years before the revolution. Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book has been rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street and building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. And that process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except the endless present in which the party is always right. That is George Orwell in 1984. Oh, the irony that Puffin Books are now doing exactly what George Orwell predicted or wrote about in that book. Puffin Books are rewriting the books of his fellow authors. It has come to pass. They'll be rewriting George Orwell next and his 1984, and their work will have been done. Orwell's warning would have come to nothing.
davidozeus.uk.
Thanks for sticking around.